Hi everyone, today I just wanted to talk about Just Cause 3 on the Steam Deck, which is one of my favorite open world games ever. And I just wanted to talk about the game's optimal settings and performance on the Steam Deck, as well as whether the game's actually worth it on the Steam Deck, talking about the game's presentation, its story, its gameplay, and of course whether it's worth buying on the Steam Deck. And then we'll wrap it all up from there. Anyway, I first want to talk about the optimal settings I would recommend if you wanted to play the game on the Steam Deck, as well as the general performance on the Steam Deck in gameplay. Okay, getting right into the optimal settings for Just Cause 3 on the Steam Deck, all of it will be on screen now. So I'm using a mix of medium to high settings for the game, as you'll see now. If you want to choose the exact settings that I use in my playthrough on the Steam Deck, you can pause the video and just change the settings accordingly. In my personal opinion, this is the best settings to use if you want the game to still look great, but also get that great performance. And talking of performance, I'm also going to show you the exact preset I'm using on the Steam Deck in terms of the TDP and the FPS limit in order to get a smooth experience on Just Cause 3 on the Steam Deck. So what I've personally gone for is a locked 40 FPS with it having no stutters or frame drops at all, while keeping the TDP at 12 watts in order to get good battery life. With these settings, if you use all of the settings in game that I use, in addition to all of the TDP options that I use and the FPS limit, you'll get around 4 hours of battery life, which is absolutely fantastic on a beautiful game like this. Of course, if you wanted to squeeze more battery life from this, or wanted to take it down to 30, if you feel like maybe when it drops from 40 to 39 that's too much for you, then you can definitely do that, and you could probably get a bit more battery life out of that as well, and a much smoother experience. But at 40 FPS and 12 watts TDP, this is an extremely smooth experience on the Steam Deck and is really enjoyable as well. And as you'll see throughout the gameplay in this video, there is no stutters even when there's a lot going on screen. Maybe if you really push it with all the explosions, you might get a frame drop or two, but nothing drastic that would actually affect the flow of your gameplay. With that being said, let's talk about whether this game is actually worth it on the deck, talking about the game's presentation, story, gameplay, and whatever else in order to make that decision. Okay, I think I want to start the discussion of whether this game is worth it on the deck by first discussing the game's story, of course without any spoilers. This game's story is pretty typical, and it's a pretty okay story for the most part. It's really just there to take you through the game's world and different environments, and is nothing too crazy in its characters, writing, and overall plot. If you're looking for an absolutely amazing story in an open world game, Just Cause 3 isn't going to give you that. Really, the story is just serviceable at best. And although I did enjoy the story and its characters, especially in the first run through of the game, it's not anything too amazing that's going to blow your socks off. It's really just a typical liberation plot style, where you're just going to be liberating different bases and trying to save the country from the dictator. So in that regard, it has a pretty generic story, but one that takes you through a wide variety of the game's different environments and landscapes, and really is just a way for you to experience all those landscapes if you don't in normal gameplay. With that being said, I think we should talk about the game's presentation briefly, especially on the Steam Deck using those medium to high settings. Honestly, this game probably looks better or on par with how it looks on the consoles that it launched on, which is the Xbox One and PS4. You're getting a beautiful and smooth 40 FPS while using medium to high settings, and on that, the game looks absolutely fantastic. The game's presentation for a 2015 game is astounding, and all the environments are really beautiful and really well detailed, and they still hold up extremely well even today. There's also a lot of diversity in the different environments that you're going to be traversing across, which makes playing this game super fun all the time. I really have no complaints on the presentational level of this game, and especially on the Steam Deck with that OLED screen or even the LCD screen, this game looks absolutely phenomenal, and you're going to enjoy your experience here on the Steam Deck on all fronts. But now talking about the actual highlight of this game, that is definitely the game's amazing and super enjoyable gameplay. So talking first about the game's variety of weapons, there is a great variety of weapons here, from LMGs, assault rifles, RPGs, snipers, and a bunch of other explosive and different gadgets that you can use while taking down different enemies, enemy bases, and all these different towns that you have to liberate. In addition to this, the wingsuit and grappling hook make it super fun to play through the entire game, and honestly, the traversal in this game is one of the best in any open world game I've ever played. It is really fast and fluid, and it feels very smooth to play and feels very fluid as you're drifting through the air or driving in the car. The game's traversal overall is really fast and fluid, and I really enjoy every single moment moment I'm traversing through the game's various environments and landscapes, with there again being a lot of diversity in these environments, which makes traversing the open world in its cars, helicopters, tanks, boats, and whatever else very fun to do. Now, talking about the actual general shooting of the game and whatnot, it is pretty basic, but it is really satisfying and easy to enjoy due to the weapon variety that I mentioned earlier. With all the different weapons you have, such as the LMGs, assault rifles, etc., this variety of weapons in the game gives you a lot of approaches in order to play the game, especially if you wanted to mix this with the different vehicles in the game, which you'll definitely do. Vehicles such as the game's tanks, boats, and aeroplanes, which all have a variety of different weapons such as missile launchers or machine guns, are very fun to play with and really easy to control, especially with the controls on the Steam Deck. So when you're going into a base using these different gadgets and vehicles at hand, makes it really diverse in the manner in which you take down the different bases. Of course, there's going to be lots of explosions, but the way you get to those explosions is going to vary in each base you're doing, depending on what different vehicles or weapons you decide to use. My favorite thing about the game overall in terms of its gameplay is definitely that tether ability that you get with the grappling hook. This again essentially allows you to just tether two things together, but the possibilities of using this tool when taking down different enemy bases and towns, or even just approaching the different enemies in the game, is crazy in number, and there is so much you can do with the tether ability that makes it one of the best gadgets I've ever used in an open world game, period. For example, if you wanted to tether a fuel tank to a helicopter, for example, bringing that helicopter down while also exploding the fuel tank that you're supposed to destroy, you can easily do that. And as your tether gets stronger and stronger as you progress through the game, you'll be able to tether so many different things together, which makes it super chaotic and very fun to play with this ability. As you've been seeing throughout this video, the gameplay is very explosive and very dramatic, which is one of the aspects that makes it so fun in the first place, and probably the most dominant aspect, which makes the gameplay here the most fun gameplay I've ever experienced in an open world game. As you can also see throughout this video, the Steam Deck is an absolute champ when handling this game, even with all the variety of explosions going on all at the same time. Overall, to wrap this up and whether the game is actually worth it for you on the Steam Deck if you have never played this game or just want to play it on the Steam Deck for the first time, this game is really the epitome of mindless fun in every way, and is one of the best open world games I've ever played. As to whether the game is actually worth it, the game frequently goes on sale on the Steam store for just $3, which is an absolute steal for all the content and fun you'll be getting with this game, and I recommend everyone try this game out. Even if you're not a fan of these sorts of games, you're going to have an absolute blast with Just Cause 3, especially at that extremely cheap price of just $3. To wrap up, I hope you all did enjoy today's video. If you did and want more content like this, please consider subbing to the channel and dropping a like down below and commenting what you think about this game, or whether you're planning to pick it up for your Steam Deck or just want to try the game out itself. Anyway, that's it from me for today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.